Hey, it's your friendly neighborhood Spider-Man here, and I'm swinging by the Geekcast Radio Network.
It's been 5 years, and the Geekcast Radio Network would like to give back to you. How, you may ask? Well, first of all, we're coming up with a brand new website to be launched June 1st, 2014. In addition to that, there'll be many new features for interactive abilities. So how do you enter into this magical celebration? Well, Geekcast Radio has a contest where you can win some awesome prizes, ranging from comics, Blu-rays, DVDs, trade paperbacks, and comics, and more. How do you enter? Write in your favorite stories of how the Geekcast Radio Network has affected you in the last 5 years, and how it's unleashed the geek in you. You can also enter by writing reviews on our shows on iTunes. For more information, visit www.geekcastradio.com and click on the banner. So until next time, unleash the geek in you.
You know what it is I love about being Spider-Man? Everything.
This is M-Wire, Movie Week in Review. M-Wire is brought to you by Audible.com. Sign up today to get a free audiobook download at www.audibletrial.com/geekcastradio. Start today with a free 30-day trial with over 100,000 titles to choose from for your iPhone, Android, Kindle, or MP3 player. Don't forget to follow Audible on Twitter at audible_com. And now the latest and greatest in movies with M-Wire.
Hello and welcome to M-Wire Movie Week in Review. This is the in-depth episode 105 dedicated to Amazing Spider-Man 2 because it was superior to the first film. I am your host, TFG and Mike, and joining me is a ragtag team of Autobots and Decepticons. You choose which side you're on. We have the venomous Michael Dodd from Canada from This Week in Geek. Hello.
Word up, yo.
We have the former Lizard, Ryan Porter. Hello.
Whoa, all right. How's it going, everybody?
Well, you got your arm back, so you can't be the Lizard anymore. So there you go.
That's true.
And we have the Scorpion, Jeremy Fine.
Come on, why you always calling me names?
Wow, you actually have a perfect voice for that character.
I am from Brooklyn, so I'm New York.
Yeah. There you go. And you might be asking yourself, but TFG and Mike, the M-Wire weekly crew of Optimus, Solo, Matt Fridley sent, and Nathan, I can't pronounce his damn Twitter name to save my life, already covered Amazing Spider-Man 2. Well, yes, they did, but they didn't do a lot of spoilers. So here we're going to talk about... Actually, we're going to start off talking about the overall franchise of the films, what each of us thought of the Raimi trilogy, and then what we thought of the first rebooted version of Amazing, and then we'll go in depth and spoil the hell out of Amazing Spider-Man 2, which right now, next to Captain America, is the best comic book movie out there.
I don't know if I go that far.
Come on now.
Do you mean this year?
Yes.
Okay. Because that's a
Yes.
huge
Yeah,
list,
all right.
obviously. Yeah.
This year. Yes, this year. All right. Let's start up north with Mike. When did you first see the Raimi trilogy? Did you see all three of them in theaters, or were they wait to see if you really want to see them, or how'd that go?
Well, I remember first seeing the trailers for the Raimi Spider-Man in theaters when they had the World Trade Center trailer where they spun the web with the helicopter in the bank robbery. I did see the first one in theaters. I actually drove 2 hours out of my way to go see it at a really good theater. I've seen all three in theaters. The only one I didn't see opening weekend, I think, was Spider-Man 3. Yeah. The less we talk about that one, the better. I thoroughly enjoy the series overall. I was actually really surprised when they chose Sam Raimi, the guy who did Evil Dead and Army of Darkness and all that, to go forward with this particular series of films. So I've been genuinely pleased with almost every single one. Even 3 I find gets better on subsequent viewings, despite being a very flawed movie. I think the Raimi movies nailed casting in some ways. Like, for example, I think Tobey Maguire is a better Peter Parker, but Garfield's a much better Spider-Man, for example, because Garfield comes across to me as a bit of a hipster and kind of a cool kid, whereas Tobey Maguire looks like the kind of guy you'd push down, take his lunch money, and give him a wedgie. Whereas with Garfield, girls would be lining up to fuck him. I'm just saying. But ain't nobody lining up to fuck Tobey Maguire. So
Kirsten Dunst already did.
yeah, well, still, I mean, he gets to bang Emma Stone. I'm just saying. But yeah, like there's so many things I think the Raimi movies did right. Like, I think Alfred Molina, for example, as Dr. Octopus was friggin' fantastic. Willem Dafoe as the Green Goblin, a choice I don't know whether I would have made, but a pretty good Norman Osborn, then he became the Power Ranger villain. And Thomas Hayden Church, you could not have cast that role any better for Sandman. And then finally, James Franco. I love him because he's so fucking weird. But that's so good. And the new Goblin, where he looks like a fucking skateboarder from Tony Hawk. And then Topher Grace. What the hell do we say about Eddie Brock?
It's goddamn Eric Foreman, people. That's all it is. It's an emo Eric Foreman.
See, I think the thing is, he should have waited like 10 years before he did something like that, because he needed that time to distance himself from the Eric Foreman role. And that's the problem. Topher Grace will always be Eric Foreman and Faggy Venom. And I say that with no disrespect. But you know what I'm trying to say, right? It's just, there'll always be these goofy two characters, which sucks. If Raimi fucked up one thing, it was Venom. But I think that was a middle finger to the studios, forcing him to put him in the movie.
The one thing I'll say about Venom is that I like how the symbiote looked before it became Peter's suit.
Yeah, it looks cool.
Like when it was attacking him in bed, like, you know, on the bed, I thought that was cool. I thought that was great. But once Foreman put the suit on, it dripped all over him, and
my problem is Topher wasn't the right body type. I mean, in my opinion, like, I mean, although I can see where they're going with, they wanted him to be the dark side, the reverse Spider-Man, so to speak. But to me, Eddie Brock has always been a bigger dude. I mean, I think of someone like Vin Diesel or John Cena, that big muscular type. They would have been a half-decent Eddie Brock. Because John
Cena's a good enough actor for cops and firefighters and
think about
all that kind of stuff. I don't know if he could act for Eddie Brock. I just don't know.
See, if you could put the body type there and then have someone who could really add some real gravitas to the role, possibly. But that's the type of body type that I see as Eddie Brock, the big muscular dude, as opposed to...
Oh, no, I agree with that. I just don't know.
Oh, yeah. I've never seen John Cena act evil, and it will never happen. So...
Yeah.
But yeah, that's what I think about the original Raimi films inside of a nutshell.
What about you, Ryan?
I definitely saw all 3 in theaters, all 3 opening weekend, if not earlier. Actually, conned a buddy of mine who worked at the theater at the time and taking me to what they called the employee showing, Tuesday night before it came out. So I got a pretty good jump on it. I will echo most of the sentiments. Willem Dafoe should have been an awesome Norman Osborn. That's not really what happened. The talking to himself in the mirror was just too ridiculous. Even Willem Dafoe couldn't pull that off. The costume, enough has been said about that. I don't need to pile on. Spider-Man 2 is still one of the greatest superhero films of all time. 3, there are a few golden peanuts you can pull out of that turd, but it's pretty bad. And then I was really excited to see them reboot it, actually. I know it gets the knock as like the reboot poster child, and everyone wants to rag and complain on it. But after the mess that was 3, I think that was about their only option. And I'm just such a big Spider-Man fan that it really kind of doesn't matter. I'm going to enjoy myself when I go see it for the first time, regardless of how good or bad it might be. And then maybe there's as there are with the first trilogy, there's kind of a law of diminishing returns. I seem to like them less and less every time I watch them. But so it's Spider-Man up on the big screen, so I'm not going to complain too much, no matter how bad it is.
What about you, Jeremy?
Well, for me, since I was a New Yorker, I had to go see Spider-Man. I mean, a superhero that lives in my neck of the woods, how could I say no? I loved the first movie. I know a lot of people complained about casting and whatnot. I thought that Cliff Robertson was awesome as Uncle Ben. Of course, it sucked when we knew what was going to happen with him. William Dafoe, I think Weird Al parodied the Spider-Man song and said that William Dafoe looks a lot scarier without the mask. But I have to say, something with his facial expressions and his voice, if the mask could have articulated a little more, or if he could have put on just like green makeup or something, I wouldn't have complained. I think he was just too over the top. I think that Tobey Maguire, he's so awkward that you wouldn't expect him to be Spider-Man, and I think that was the point. With Spider-Man 2, I just remember playing that trailer. It had that great operatic score to it. I was trying to search and download. I couldn't get it out of my head. I must have seen that movie in theaters back to back to back literally 3 times and could not wait to get that on DVD. Now, with Spider-Man 3, it's an interesting story because when I was living in Staten Island at the time, I decided that this would be perfect for me to walk from my apartment to the Staten Island Ferry and see this in Manhattan like the first 2. And because my favorite villain, Venom, was going to be in it, I wore a Venom costume T-shirt. I go on the Staten Island Ferry, and there's this guy walking around with bootleg DVDs. He looks at me, he sees that I have the Venom costume T-shirt. He just starts laughing like crazy, takes a bootleg copy of Spider-Man 3, throws it down on the seat next to me, laughs, and walks away. I figure, okay, this is not good. So as the ferry turns around, I go home, I look at this, and I was like, no. I then, the next day, decide to see it in theaters because I figured, okay, it's a shitty copy, and you know how bootlegs are. I see it in theaters, and I'm like, no. I then wait to rent it on Blu-ray again, and I was like, okay, 3 things that are wrong. I don't think people were rushing to see Sandman. I think that Scorpion would have made a lot more sense because you figure at the end, J. Jonah Jameson wants to destroy Spider-Man, will bring in Scorpion. Foreman would have been perfect as Scorpion. Raimi, he directed Evil Dead. I figured, okay, he understands like the goofiness of good and evil. He'd be perfect to bring in Venom, but he doesn't understand Venom. And I think to just bring in a character that everybody wanted except for Raimi was, a giant middle finger. Plus, the ending of Spider-Man 3, I'm sorry, it's right out of Ghostbusters. It's in New York. It's a tall building. People will standing around it. The hero comes. Everybody claps. And Sandman turns into the Stay Puft Marshmallow Man. I figure this is like Raimi just doesn't care about the fan or the audience anymore. And as for Kirsten Dunst goes, she's always been a tough sell. I think that it was too fast, too soon for her. But if I can go with the casting, I got to go with Robertson, Maguire, definitely J.K. Simmons as J. Jonah Jameson.
Oh, God, yeah. He redefined that role.
You know what? He needs to be in every Spider-Man thing now until eventually he dies.
He wants to come back in The Amazing Spider-Man 3.
Well, he was so good, that's why you haven't seen J. Jonah Jameson in the new movies.
Yeah.
They try and put him in the new Spider-Man video game, but it's stupid.
The only way he would work in the video game is if J.K. did the voice, or if Ed Asner came back and did the voice, because Ed Asner was the voice of him in the 94 cartoon series, and that was damn good until J.K. came along. And for me, the original trilogy, there are a number of things wrong with it. Now that I've seen Garfield as Spider-Man, I cannot stand Tobey Maguire anymore. It's one of those things where Toby plays the geeky side of Peter, the nerd side, the awkward side, a little too over the top for me. Like he can't say anything to MJ without stuttering at least 10 times. And he talks to her all the time. He's known her since he was, 4 or 5? I mean, they've been living next door to each other since they were kids, for Christ's sake. With Garfield, yes, he is a little bit more outspoken.
He's way too confident as Parker.
Well, but I like that, though. And I think the other thing is, and I think a lot of people will point this out, the Raimi films are based on the 616 Marvel Universe, whereas supposedly the Amazing films are based on the Ultimate Universe. So, people can pick and choose who they like. I think Garfield is the superior of the two. I don't know if I could. I mean, unless it's like on FX, which it usually always is. Any of the original 3. I don't know if I can watch those movies anymore after seeing Garfield's performance in both of the Amazing 1 and 2. Really quick before we get to Amazing 2, let's go around the table. Brief thoughts on the first Amazing film, Mike.
Surprising, actually. Mark Webb, I didn't expect him to treat it as well as he did. There are a few really stupid moments in the first movie. The cranes, for one, and lizard people.
I knew you were going to bring that up.
Although, and one other thing, and I don't mean to harp on this, but I liked Uncle Ben and Aunt May in Raimi's movies a lot more. There's something about Sally Field and the elusive man from Mass Effect that I don't know. And it's not that Martin Sheen or Sally Field are bad actors, and far from it, superior actors of our time. But there's something about their chemistry with Garfield I just didn't feel. Yet with Cliff Robertson, and I can't remember the woman who played Aunt May.
Rosemary Harris.
There was such an intimacy there. Like Aunt May, you believed that she was this frail old woman, and I get what they're going with Sally Field to be this empowered person and not helpless and blah blah blah. I liked that about the Raimi movies, and I felt with Cliff Robertson as Uncle Ben, despite not having a lot of screen time, you really believed it. With Martin Sheen, you got the fatherly vibe from him, but I don't know, I believed in Robertson's Uncle Ben more.
Yeah, and I can agree to that because let's face it, the Amazing franchise, at least to this point, at least in my opinion, it told the classic Uncle Ben death story, but in a slightly twisted around way.
Yeah.
And that's using the term loosely.
Yeah.
But what it did was it focused more on his parents, which I kind of like because the only time I've ever heard Richard and Mary.
Let us talk about the parents.
Wait. The only time I've only ever seen anything with the parents was the
animated series.
Yeah, the animated series. I'm trying to think of the damn episode. I think it was Sins of the Father. I forget which one, but that's the only time I had ever heard anything about his parents outside of that they were dead, and Uncle Ben and Aunt May have raised him ever since. Ryan, what were your initial quick thoughts on Amazing 1?
I really liked it. I liked that from a comic book fan perspective, I liked that the web shooters were finally, I'm not going to hate on the organics, but I'd rather have them be web shooters. I loved Gwen Stacy. I loved Emma Stone as Gwen Stacy. I really liked Garfield. I'll never understand why people think he was too cool to play Peter Parker because he skateboarded. I don't know what mythical high school everyone else went to, but the skateboarders at my high school were not cool. So I'll never understand that complaint at all, and what high school everyone else went to think that. I thought it's really hard to compare Uncle Ben's and Aunt May's, but I thought that there was a lot more emotion, a lot more passion out of Martin Sheen and Sally Field than there was out of Cliff Robertson and Rosemary Harris. It was cool to see the lizard. It was different and unexpected, which I kind of liked. I guess it'd be the comparison of like watching the Walking Dead TV show, even though you've read the comics. Like, you kind of know what's going on, but there's going to be so much new stuff that you get to really experience it and not feel like you've read this story before, kind of thing. I like that end of it. And, you know, it had its things I didn't like too, but again, I'm always going to be positive and focus on that. And I really, really liked the kind of the updated take. I loved his progression into becoming Spider-Man. You know, I really loved Martin Sheen, and that's not a knock on Cliff Robertson, but I really liked Martin Sheen as Uncle Ben. And yeah,
I just think we didn't get web shooters. I just don't think we got enough of either one of them. I mean,
I just like too that just they didn't cram down, like, and again, I think I want to credit Martin Sheen, even though it's technically the script. They didn't cram the "with great power comes great responsibility" down your throat. It was a lot more subtle. Like, they said it, but they didn't say it. You know what I mean? And I thought that was kind of cool. That
they didn't
was
need
a little
to,
more...
and I think that was the strength of the first movie.
Right.
Yeah. What about you, Jeremy? Brief thoughts, and then after that, we'll get into the second film.
Well, the pros, I guess, with Amazing Spider-Man 1, you had a better casting with Gwen Stacy and Captain Stacy and Garfield. The cons, unfortunately, with Aunt May and Uncle Ben, the problem is Sally Field, at this point, I don't like her. I really, really don't like her. And Martin Sheen, yeah, I think the Uncle Ben death was a little bit more realistic than with Raimi's. Yeah, the cranes, you know what, I said this. Why couldn't I plug in my PlayStation 3 controller? As for the lizard goes, everybody wanted to see him. They couldn't wait because of the original trilogies. But the way the lizard was designed, I was almost waiting for Spider-Man to jump on his back and take a frying pan and go, not the mama, not the mama.
Oh, God.
The problem with the lizard is that I liked him because he was something out of like a 50s or 60s B movie, and they made him too big. And even when he's looking at his arm, you know, before he becomes the lizard, and he sees a reflection of his arm, like he wants two arms, and he grows and he turns into the lizard, it doesn't, I don't know, I'm not feeling anything for this character. It just... They were slow and sluggish, and then there were some good points where Peter's in the sewers and he's taking his web and he sees his little newts going along, like he's trying to find where the lizard is controlling, like, I guess, his minions. So, and it was nice to see Thomas Howell working again. So, yeah, 50-50.
All right. We are going to get to The Amazing Spider-Man 2, The Rise of Electro, after this trailer.
You know what it is I love about being Spider-Man? Everything.
Peter Parker, Harry Osborn. It's been 10 years. What have you been up to? I do some web design. It's just the wrist, just on the wrist, buddy. Peter, you're gonna want to see this. Osborn had you under surveillance. Why? Isn't that the question of the day? Nothing is what I thought it was.
I once told you that secrets have a cost. The truth does too.
My name is Richard Parker. I have discovered what Oscorp was going to use my research for.
What is all this?
The future. We have plans for you, Peter Parker. You wanted to be the hero.
Need a hand?
Now you gotta pay the price.
We have the power now. We can change the world.
Then let's go catch a spider.
I made a choice.
This is my path.
This is bigger than you, Peter.
I'm the only one who can stop them. I'm Spider-Man. I gotta go.
I'm coming with you.
Gwen, it's too dangerous. Sorry, I love you. Don't hang me.
Warning. The following recording contains many plot spoilers. If you have not seen the movie being discussed, please go see the movie before listening. If not, you have been warned. And now, on with the show.
All right, we are back. Mike, give us the skinny on Amazing Spider-Man 2.
Well, it sucks. No, well, that's not entirely a lie. Okay, basically, Oscorp is the bad guy. For everything. For anything. Basically, the Amazing Spider-Man 2, basically, Peter and Gwen have been kind of split up for a while. He's still doing the whole Spider-Man thing, saving the city. He's about to graduate high school and basically go out there and live his life as an aspiring photographer. So anyway, what's going on is, while out there being the hero, he runs across a man named Max Dillon, played by Jamie Foxx, and he saves his life, so he becomes obsessed with Spider-Man to the point where he looks like a Looney Tune.
Just say it, dude. He's the 21st century Jim Carrey Riddler. Just say it.
Yeah, although I will say I do like him in the latter half of the movie, but we'll get to that. So he dies-ish, is resurrected as Electro, and it turns out Norman Osborn, Harry Osborn's father, is dying of a rare genetic disorder, which just so happens to be happening to Harry at an accelerated rate, so bad that he'll be dead in a matter of months, quote unquote. So he wants to talk to Spider-Man, because Harry Osborn has found out about Richard Parker's work previously about cross-species genetics, which is what caused the lizard incident before. So eventually it all culminates into Harry Osborn getting thrown out of Oscorp because he can't be trusted and no one likes him, blah, blah, blah. Special Projects douchebag from TV show takes over. I can't remember the actor's name.
Yeah.
But anyway, so Peter and Gwen, eventually they do get back together, deciding, you know what, your father didn't want us together, but it's our lives, we have to do this. But then Gwen's like, you know what, I have this really good opportunity to go to Oxford, because, you know, why not? So she decides she has to leave, and Peter's like, you know what, I could just hang up the webs here and go over there. They have crime in Britain, right? So anyway, eventually things are starting to look kind of up, but of course Electro attacks the city after being subjected to experiments at Ravencroft, and he's fucking nuts with a suit with a lightning bolt. How convenient. So Harry Osborn breaks him out of Ravencroft, says, okay, look, I'll take you to Oscorp, we can both get revenge on Spider-Man because he fucked you over because he saved you and left you to die. He wouldn't give me his blood, which, oh yeah, that's why Harry Osborn wants to talk to Spider-Man, because his blood potentially can tap into the self-healing properties of spiders.
No.
Can't tell you the amount of stupid that reeks of, but they do have the ability to regenerate lost limbs, much like lizards. Anyway, moving on. So eventually the final battle happens where Spider-Man fights Electro, and Electro fights Spider-Man with dubstep.
Now, I will say the scene with them dancing around up the thing and the music was incorporated to the moves. I did like that. I did like what Danny Elfman did with the music there.
I don't think it was Elfman. No, this was Hans Zimmer.
No, it was I'm sorry, Hans Zimmer. Yeah, I did like. Yeah.
I don't know. So anyway, eventually they destroy Electro by overloading him like a battery, because Peter Parker's super smart and couldn't figure that out on his own.
Gwen says, Peter, don't you remember 8th grade science?
Yeah, I'm thinking, wait a second, he invented a combat... Shut the fuck up, Gwen. Now, I'd love to point at this part in the movie. Okay, everybody come with me now, if you will. The final battle. Gwen Stacy says to Peter, It's Peter, I helped work on this system. It's really complicated. You can't handle it yourself. I'm coming with you. Okay? Everybody has this plot point, right?
Yep.
What did Gwen do?
She flipped a switch.
Pushed a button. Nothing else. She pushed a fucking button. Anyway, moving on.
Pepper Potts was more competent, and
oh
Pepper
my
lived.
God, was she ever. So anyway, moving on finally. We get to the final battle. Electro's dead, and we have the Green Goblin finally appears because randomly Harry injected himself with spider venom that was held in secret projects, and now he's all sorts of fucked up, and he has green skin, and he has this battle armor suit, which is actually kind of cool. So he puts two and two together, figures out, I always see Spider-Man and Gwen Stacy together. Maybe there's something to this. So they fight in the clock tower. Spider-Man beats him in all of 35 seconds. Gwen Stacy falls to her death. Spider-Man tries to reach out to her and save her by shooting a web at her. Unfortunately, it breaks her back, basically killing her instantly.
It basically
watch that
makes
scene
her
again. He
bounce.
catches her on the first bounce. Which is kind of hilarious and kind of sick. So anyway, Spider-Man's like, oh man, I've killed the woman I love. Shit, yo. So he mopes for a while, like 4 or 5 months. Harry Osborn is in Ravencroft. He's all locked up. This mysterious stranger goes, it's time. And they give a armored suit, this power armor, that so happens to look like a rhino to Paul Giamatti. I know his real name is some Russian thing, but he'll always just be Paul Giamatti.
Yeah.
Paul Giamatti fights Spider-Man, but only after Spider-Man gets the courage to go back out there because some kid has the guts to stand up to him and put his mask on. Mm-hmm. And then the movie ends with the trailer shot of Spider-Man swinging the sewer lid into the rhino's face, and that's what I wish the movie actually was.
Yeah.
You can't tell that I'm bitter, can you?
Yes, we can. Okay, there's a couple of things I want to get out of the way first. Sony failed with both of the Amazing 1 and 2. Where they failed has nothing to do with the actual films. They failed in the promotion and after-credit scenes in both films. The first film's trailer has the scene where Lizard is talking to Osborn. We assume it's Osborn. We find out that it was later. But, talking to Osborn. That's the end credits scene at the end of Amazing 1. At the end of Amazing 2, we don't get anything about Amazing 3 or any little teaser, any, purple-headed faced alien villains that could turn their head around like happened in Avenger. No. We get a scene from X-Men Days of Future Past. Really? Seriously? You use the end of Amazing 2 to promote the next film you have out in, 3 weeks' time?
Not even that
actually,
film.
You're kind of onto something, Mike, because you're right. The trailers for these movies were very misleading. In fact, once again, gentlemen, follow me down the trail. Do you remember in the trailer when we first saw this, where Harry Osborn is talking to Peter and going, why is Oscorp having you being followed, Pete? Notice how that's not in the movie?
It's not in the movie at all.
It's complete bullshit, which means this movie, my friend Noah Spooney said it best, this movie stinks of rewrites. And it sucks, because I think that would have been a really cool subplot in the movie. And with Amazing 2, I was led to believe that Rhino was going to be a big part of this. He was going to be like the muscle. He was going to be basically Batman and Robin's Bane, but he was going to be in it. Paul Giamatti, Rhino, is in this for all of 3.5 minutes. And you're also led to believe that the Green Goblin storyline is supposed to be some huge thing. And in reality, Dane DeHaan is in the Goblin makeup for, once again, under 5 minutes. And you cram one of the most important scenes in comic books, Gwen Stacy's death, where the Green Goblin basically kills her. And Spider-Man takes him out with a punch. One punch. It's just, I don't know, just the way this movie was marketed, I felt very misled.
I've heard different stories. I heard that they wanted to push the Sinister Six like crazy. And
that I believe.
Yeah, that because all I heard was Paul Giamatti was going to be Rhino. that they were going to push him as Rhino, they were going to push him as Rhino. And my whole argument with that was, okay, now you're just kind of like picking villains out of thin air, because with Raimi, they were discussing possibly 6 movies and bringing in Sinister Six. Then they were talking about bringing in Electro. Then they were talking, because they didn't bring in Lizard before, they were going to bring him in now. Then they wanted to bring in Green Goblin and do like they did with Nolan's Dark Knight, where they were going to make him like the Joker and make him important and burn him into Amazing Spider-Man 2. And all they were going to talk about was Osborn. I don't know. Maybe it's me because I'm not familiar with the Ultimate Universe, but at least with the original Marvel, I know that Norman Osborn has a split personality. That's the whole thing, and that's why he has this conflict with Harry, and that's why Harry is wimpy. This movie, Osborn has supercalifragilisticexpialidocious disease, and so does Harry. Norman, I don't know if he is or isn't dead. And then Harry, you're right. There are scenes that would have answered a lot of questions when Peter goes to Oscorp the first time in the movie, because in the first movie, he walks into Oscorp, somebody looks at him and says, "Oh, you're here for the internship." Nobody says anything. He's able to walk in. Nobody says anything. He's able to hack into Oscorp in different areas. You figure they finally bring that up in this movie. No, they're so concerned about the villains and what the sequels are going to be. It's a mess.
This movie was 2.5 hours of setup with no real payoff other than Gwen's death.
Let's let Ryan give his initial opinions, then I have a question for the panel. Go ahead, Ryan.
Well, I don't have cynical nitpicks. Is that allowed?
Oh boy. Okay.
But we didn't see the same movie, right?
Go ahead.
In many ways, somebody's fire alarm going off. Are they that hot-headed about this?
That's not me. I think that's the bullshit detector.
Yeah.
Yeah, you're right. Go ahead, Ryan.
In many ways, this is the Spider-Man movie I've been waiting my entire life to see.
Oh, God.
It opens up with Spider-Man swinging through New York after a villain. Now, in the movie, if you've only seen the movie and you don't know the comics, you don't know that Alexei becomes the Rhino, so he's just random thug here. But he's doing very Spider-Man-y things. He doesn't shut up the entire scene. He's incredibly annoying, and the villain is ridiculous and over the top and defeated before really the end credits or the opening credits even begin. All the while Peter Parker is supposed to be somewhere else. I've been waiting since James Cameron was developing a Spider-Man movie for it to start with D-list villain.
The day in the life of Spider-Man, basically.
Yeah, D-list villain being taken out. I love that Electro comes in, and yes, his opening scene in his apartment, you could almost hear the flaming lip song from Batman Forever. It was a little ridiculous. I'm not saying this is a great movie by any means, but again, there's so much pure Spider-Man awesomeness in this movie that I can overlook what's bad about it, because there's plenty of bad about it. The fact that Electro's motivations are ridiculous, but Electro's motivations in the comics are he's a crook. So I don't mind them trying to spice it up a little bit. The Times Square scene I thought was awesome. I thought the slow-mo Peter figuring out how to save as many people as possible was awesome. I thought the taking him out with the fire hose was a great homage back to his first appearance, and that's how Spider-Man first took out Electro. I thought the hanging out with the wearing the fire hat and hanging out with the firemen was hilarious. Very Spider-Man-y thing to do. I think the fact that he thought Electro was defeated and moved on with his life is great, because almost every other comic book movie, it's you meet the hero, you meet the villain, build, climactic showdown. And this one, we kind of had this ebb and flow of, again, like you said, Mike, day in the life of Spider-Man. And the villains kind of came and went, and he thought he was safe, and then he wasn't. And then the hero came back even stronger, and he had to find a new way to defeat him, which is another big thing I really liked about this, is whether or not he had Gwen's help at sometimes, he had to find ways to beat him. It wasn't all about punching him in the face. And as much as I love the climactic scenes in Spider-Man 2 with Doc Ock, that's really all he's doing. He's not doing anything scientific to figure out a way to beat him. Certainly not doing that at the end of Spider-Man 3. And he's finding new ways to defeat his enemies. I like that there's too much going on, as convoluted as it was at times, and it does stink of rewrites, and it stinks of, hey, here's our plan going forward, so this movie's going to suffer because of it. Hopefully they'll get better down the line, but after the box office take, who knows what the future of this franchise holds. I loved that I'm getting so so worked up. Let me point out one thing that I just really love about Alistair Smythe is in this movie. Everybody knows who Alistair Smythe is, Russ?
Yeah,
Yes.
the Spider Slayer dude.
All right. Special Projects is full of mechanical equipment designed to kill Spider-Man, correct?
Yeah.
Yes.
Who do you think is building all that stuff?
Mm-hmm.
Alistair Smythe. I think to this point, if that's not what they're doing with the Sinister Six and Alistair Smythe and Oscorp, I don't mind them at all streamlining Oscorp into this supervillain factory. I really don't. The fact that everything is going to come in and out of that, it actually makes a Sinister Six better, because in the comics, again, at least originally, it's very ridiculous that all these villains would decide to work together. Here, you're giving them a reason to come together. They're basically employed by Harry Osborn, and I'm not entirely sure that Norman Osborn is dead yet either.
No, there actually was a scene that was filmed where it shows Norman Osborn's head in a jar, and that dude who breaks Harry out of Ravencroft says, "Time to wake up, old friend," and his eyes open.
All right, well, I'm glad that got deleted then.
Oh, God. But I think you nailed it right on the head, where basically Oscorp is the bad guy factory.
It is.
It's kind of hilarious when you put it that way.
But I don't have a problem with it. I'm never going to get too hung up on these movies not being like my comics, because the modern comic book movie or superhero movie era started with X-Men. All apologies to Blade. It really started with X-Men in 2000. And since then, nothing has been like the comics. These are versions of these characters. Now,
I think you could argue Watchmen is probably one of the closest we've gotten to a true adaptation.
I'd put Sin City ahead of it. I'd put Sin City ahead of both of those.
Oh, yeah. All right. Fair enough.
But, and Watchmen is in, I don't want to get into a whole Watchmen tangent, but Watchmen's only as good as it could be. There's things in that graphic novel that just are not adaptable whatsoever.
Like the Cthulhu monster.
That is adaptable. They just pussied out.
Oh, wow.
I don't know, I had some other points to bring up too, but now I can't, and I'm forgetting all of them. To address your point of Harry being defeated so quickly, I really actually didn't have a problem with that at all, because Harry had no idea what he was doing. Gwen's death, aside from it not being on a bridge, was everything I'd want from that scene. I knew it was coming since they cast Gwen Stacy. Like, her story is not a happy one. And that, to know it was coming and still, I don't want to say be affected by it, but it still kind of hit me. The sound effect when he caught her, it was awesome.
What about the web
unfortunately
hand?
Awesome. The web hand was silly. I can't. Again, I'm well aware that this is not a great movie, but in terms of me being a Spider-Man fan, and then it bookends with him taking on, to him, another random villain that's popped up. The little kid, super ridiculous. In the first movie, he finally listened to Uncle Ben's voicemail and got inspired to go be Spider-Man. In the second movie, he finally sees Gwen's speech and gets inspired to be Spider-Man again. So I don't know who's going to die and leave some sort of media message for Peter Parker to watch and become inspired by in the next one, but
it'll be Nora Winters.
There's just so much Spider-Man in this movie. Like, in terms of the character, this is the best version of that character. Yes, the villains are Schumacherian. Yes, it's convoluted. Yes, they're wasting too much time. Like, no one gets to complain about Iron Man 2 or Captain America setting up Avengers anymore, because what this one suffered under in terms of what it's going to set up far exceeds both of those. And I also hate, by the way, that people complain Iron Man 2 was just nothing but setup, and then Iron Man 3 rolls around and they complain that there's no setup to anything else. Make up your goddamn mind.
That actually
you
leads
also
into
don't
the
have Guy Pearce as your main villain. Fuck that guy.
Yeah. Well, that actually, it's funny that Ryan brings that up, because that's actually going to lead into my question that I was going to ask you guys. Do you think that Iron Man 2 was a better setup movie, or do you think this is a better setup movie for whatever comes in Amazing 3?
I think Iron Man 2 was a better setup movie in some ways, although Iron Man 2 suffered from, you didn't need Whiplash in there, truly. Justin Hammer was more than enough.
Well, if you're going to put somebody in there that has a damn suit eventually, you needed Crimson Dynamo. That's who you friggin' needed, not Whiplash.
Well, they basically combined the two, because the Ivan is Crimson Dynamo. They just gave him a different costume.
Yeah. But I guess they didn't want to do that because they didn't want to parallel Ironmonger too much.
They did. The biggest problem with Iron Man 2 isn't the setup for Avengers; it's the fact that they did one again.
Yeah, pretty much.
I would call this a better setup movie, though, because I've never understood the complaints about Iron Man 2 being too much of a setup. I will say that this one's a better because we know that basically Harry is the ringleader of this group of villains. They're just out for good old-fashioned revenge, which is very comic booky. That's fine with me. Hopefully, again, we find out that Alistair Smythe is the one building all this stuff because that would just be awesome. And it's basically Peter Parker or Spider-Man, I should say, versus Oscorp and their 6 henchmen. And
now, Mike,
go ahead.
Yeah.
I'm sorry. Keep going. I just
I'm good.
Actually thought of something.
I'll start rambling. Please cut me off at some point.
Okay, so there is something that me and Mike talked about on my show a couple of weeks back, and if you look at how Marvel Studios specifically is building their universe with like it all started with Iron Man, it's eventually going to culminate in Age of Ultron next year, right?
Mm-hmm.
They do universe building slow. The problem, I think, that's happened to comic book movies as a genre right now, because I think the end is starting to come, is every other studio feels like they have to play catch-up. And the Amazing Spider-Man movies, one of the things that makes Spider-Man great as a hero and as a villain and as basically a storytelling device, whatever, is he has a really cool rogues gallery. And they're really interesting characters. They've all got different motivations. Some of them better, some of them stupid, some plain fucking retarded. But the characters themselves are really interesting. I mean, you could even make a character like Herman Schultz, the Shocker, interesting if you know what you're doing with the
He's
material.
basically that villain I want to see in that opening scene I'm talking about.
I would love to see him fuck the Shocker.
Just beat him up and move on, and you never ever see the character again. Like, that would just be awesome to me.
The thing is, I think with Amazing Spider-Man 2, they're trying to set up this giant universe to do Sinister Six as its own thing, to do Venom as its own thing eventually, basically to make the Spider-Man universe larger than what it is right now on screen, because they only have 2 movies so far. It feels rushed to me, and I think that's the influence what Marvel has done right and has done wrong to comic book movies, because look at what they're trying to do with Batman versus Superman, aka Justice League Light or Diet Justice League. And I kind of wonder if that's what's going to happen to Amazing Spider-Man 3. They're going to cram as much crap as they can into it, and the final product's going to suck.
Well, I'm concerned after seeing Amazing Spider-Man 2 for a Sinister Six movie, because Electro is goofy for various reasons, Goblin's goofy for various reasons, Rhino is goofy, but in a very entertaining way. But they're all awesome when they're fighting Spider-Man. Like, visually, this movie is fantastic. But
absolutely.
I don't know what the hell the 6 of them are going to do without a Spider-Man. How do you make a Sinister Six movie? I guess I don't know that Spider-Man's not going to be in it, but that's the assumption, is that these guys are just... what are they doing if they're not fighting Spider-Man?
They're just hanging out, having coffee and biscotti.
Which is basically the premise of the Superior Foes of Spider-Man, the comic right now, and that's friggin' brilliant, but that's not what I want in a summer blockbuster.
See, you know what would make more sense than doing a Sinister Six movie?
Almost
Thunderbolts.
Oh no, we do not need Thunderbolts put into movies.
Yeah, I don't think it'd be a bad idea because they're former supervillains.
I would,
right?
I kind of like, they're kind of doing this with these movies. I would love for, and I was kind of hoping DC would do it, because you could do it with Maxwell Lord, you could do it with Luthor, and they have basically the reverse of what Marvel did. And you have like a Maxwell Lord or a Lex Luthor going around and recruiting the villains instead of Nick Fury going around and recruiting the heroes. I always thought that would be a really cool kind of paradox to what Marvel did.
That would be really cool, man.
Now Marvel's got themselves in the position where they can take their sweet time with their universe building. Everybody else is, like you said, you're playing catch up. So X-Men First Class comes out a few years ago, and it was awesome, by the way. But they paralyze Xavier, and they move everything up to the point where if another movie didn't happen, everything you want is in that movie. But if they knew it was going to be a hit, they probably would have taken their time and let the friendship between Magneto and Professor X develop a little bit more. A Green Lantern. They did so much universe building in that. You had so many villains. Your credit sequences, the yellow ring that comes out of nowhere. Sinestro pulls it out of his butt essentially. Like there's no explanation to it whatsoever. And
that's what that movie should have been: is the rise of Sinestro, not the fucking yellow fear monster.
Well, and Hector Hammond, and it was just too much. But they were so. They were trying so hard to get caught up, to get to a point where they could have a universe. They didn't just take their time and develop their character and develop their relationship. Sinestro turning on the Green Lantern Corps should have been epic at the end of the second movie.
Yeah.
But they rush it. And just like what Mike said, now Spider-Man, they have release dates for 3 and 4. They've announced a Venom and a Sinister Six. It's as much as I love Spider-Man, I will admit it's too friggin' much.
Well, Sony is jumping on the WB and DC bandwagon of announcing all this crap. Like, I saw a news article a few months ago where someone said online that Ben Affleck was attached to play Batman in 8 damn different things. I don't know if that was just appearances or actual 8
roles.
Different. Yeah, I don't know what that was all about. And Amazing Spider-Man 2, I enjoyed the movie for what it was. Now, I want to do a couple of comparisons here, okay? This Amazing Spider-Man 2 has the death of Gwen Stacy. Spider-Man 3 has her showing up as a whore. Amazing Spider-Man 1 and 2 have friggin' Dennis Leary as George Stacy, whereas Spider-Man 3 had James Cromwell as Captain Stacy.
Actually, let's talk about
much more
Dennis
comic
Leary
accurate.
for just a minute.
Wait, what, Mike?
Let's talk about Dennis Leary for just a minute.
Okay.
Now, in the movie, Spider-Man is seeing George Stacy everywhere. Can we all agree on this?
Yes.
Okay. Now, as a man who can rip a car apart and do these amazingly powerful acts of strength and whatever, right? Would you want someone like that who's clearly having a psychotic episode to save you? Just say.
No,
I love it. The Amazing Spider-Man has given highlight to mental illness. Just if you look at it like that. That and once again, my buddy Spoonie coined the term disapproving Dennis Leary. So whenever I see this movie, it's not Captain Stacy looking at Spider-Man. It's Dennis Leary.
It's thank God they killed me in the first one, Dennis Leary.
It's just the fact he just sits there, just scowls at him. So literally, Dennis Leary got paid to show up on set and scowl. And
It's very easy paycheck. You're right.
I'm wondering how much he got paid for these 2 films versus what he got paid to show up in fucking Small Soldiers.
Oh, God.
Don't you speak ill of Small Soldiers. What the hell?
No, I'm not. No, Ryan, I'm not. I love that movie, but I'm just saying.
But at least there he had to talk. Here, he had to scowl.
Well, see, here's the thing about this movie. This movie has so many... These 2 movies have so many actors in them, a few of them anyway, that we all know from other... let's say one-shot roles where they're like, hey, I remember that guy. Paul Giamatti, to me, I remember him from Paycheck, but I mostly remember him as the Little Blue Man in Big Fat Liar from 2002.
Yeah.
I remember him mostly for the movie Shoot 'Em Up.
Yeah, I have a hypothesis. I think the problem is, with Leary, they wanted to put him in because they weren't sure if they were going to bring back J. Jonah Jameson. So they wanted to try to have some sort of balance of somebody hating Spider-Man. And because Captain Stacy, they wanted to bring in important characters again. They wanted to see if they can bring back what they couldn't do with Raimi's and make Stacy a lot more important in this series than he was in Spider-Man 3. Because what I heard about Captain Stacy is not only was he next to J. Jonah Jameson as being a stronger and interesting character, but I think he was also killed by Doc Ock.
Yep.
Yeah.
So I was waiting to see him, because after I had watched Amazing Spider-Man 1, I played the video game and I saw, okay, Oscorp is kind of, making that Doc Ock suit. And I'm figuring, okay, he's going to be in 2 or 3 and they're going to build up Captain Stacy, and they're going to build up sexual tension with Gwen and what's going to happen with Gwen. Because the whole thing is that Gwen was supposed to be, I think, up until Amazing Spider-Man 3. And, they gave us the finger and they killed her now. But they're trying to go back and fix what they couldn't do with the Raimi verse, and that's okay. But I feel you need to move forward because we've been down this road like 8 years ago.
I think disapproving Dennis Leary shows up because of the medium. Like, we don't have caption boxes and thought balloons to convey Peter's guilt. Like, he's there as a visual representation of Peter's guilt about being with
He can do voiceovers. I mean, he can do voiceovers with the thoughts.
Yeah, you could, but I think it's not to say that comics aren't, but it's such a purely visual medium that I think you need some sort of, because the characters start talking to themselves in movies, people don't really respond well to that either.
Well, here's my problem. Here's one of the biggest problems I had. When I was taking a screenwriting and directing class, I was told by my professor that you have to think of what your character is going to be like before the story, during the story, and after the story. Now, with a comic book, of course, you've got God knows how many issues that you can adapt into a script, and that's great. But I think the adaptations of what they've done in the comics, I think they have to try to do something a little bit more original, not say, okay, well, this is what happened in the comics, so we have to do this in the movie. I don't know what would be the big deal about changing the game, because if you have now Ultimate Marvel and Marvel Now, what would have been the repercussions from fans if Gwen would have lived?
That she just hasn't died yet.
Pulled it off. But Emma Stone gives such a good performance that I really believe she's probably in the top 3 strongest elements of these 2 movies.
I don't want her to go away. That was the problem. I did not want Emma Stone. You see, the thing is now is because people apparently are so familiar with Mary Jane. I have nothing against her in the 90s cartoon where she's strong. In Raimi's, she just screams and whines and complains, and I can't stand her.
But you can't give Kirsten Dunst much more to do than that, or else she's going to get confused.
Yeah, I think with Emma Stone, there were 3 movies that she's been in that I've been impressed with: The Rocker, Superbad, and of course Easy A. When I found out that she was going to be Gwen Stacy, my heart broke because I saw her in those performances and I know, okay, she's Gwen Stacy. We know what's going to happen. But my thing was that with comic book characters, they don't seem to die. They seem to die away, where they die and they'll come back as clones or they come back in another universe. So I don't know. The way that Dennis Leary came back, I guess, as a ghost. There's been a joke where Gwen is going to kind of come back and look like Mary Jane. It's a joke on Facebook. I don't know what they're going to do with her if they bring her back in 3 as a ghost, but at least with Gwen, she could have been literally Peter's eyes and ears. She could have been a psychic. Yeah, she turns on a switch, but Peter can't be everywhere at once. So I think if they would have written that a little bit better for her, where there's a reason why she may not have radioactive spider blood, but she could have, I don't know, maybe been Oracle, or she could have done something. And you bring in Mary Jane, I just don't. I don't see the purpose of the character.
Yeah. Well, see, and that's the other thing. We mentioned earlier about rewrites. Didn't I see some sort of video online where they show Peter going to Mary Jane's house? Didn't they have an actress set for Mary Jane in this movie?
They film scenes and everything. Yes.
Too long.
I really hope they'll put those on the Blu-ray.
Mary Jane was meant to be in this movie.
It was too long, though. It was too long.
I was going to say, there's already enough going on. I didn't miss that storyline at all.
Yeah. I've heard that the director's cut is supposed to be close to 3 hours.
Oh wow. Here's my thing with this movie and the villains. Okay, everybody says, "Oh, it's Spider-Man 3 all over again," but except this is the second film in this franchise. This is not Spider-Man 3 as far as the villains. Yes, there may be too many villains for some people in this. There wasn't for me, because Giamatti's character, like Dodd said, we see him once for all of 3.5 minutes in the beginning, and then we don't see him till the very, very end. And we have the team up between Electro and Harry that takes place majority of the movie. So really, it's only Electro for in the beginning parts by himself, and then he teams up with Harry for the latter part, and then Rhino comes in at the end. I did not think three villains was done poorly in this movie. I thought it was executed very well.
I got an idiotic question though. What kind of villain do you want? Do you want a villain where it's a crazy Yahoo that puts on a costume and goes, "Oh, I forgot to carry the -2. Now I'm going to take my revenge on the world"? Or do you want a villain where he puts on the costume and he's like, "Nobody understands me, but one person gets me," and at least there's balance and respect and like a Cain and Abel type of relationship?
I think you need that for your arch nemesis, and then the rest can be crazy.
Everybody else, yeah. See, here's the thing with Amazing 2. Yes, Max Dillon reeks of 90s Jim Carrey's Riddler from Batman Forever.
That being said, though, Jamie Foxx, once he gets out of Ravencroft, his Electro, I think, is friggin' fantastic.
No, his Electro is fantastic. His Max Dillon.
Yeah.
Yeah, this guy clearly has problems.
Yeah, he
carrying around the birthday card so people will ask him about his birthday. I thought that was hilarious, actually.
You know what that's from, though?
I guess I don't.
His 4-year-old daughter, what happened was he didn't know how to play the character, approach it. Apparently, his kid wanted him, because that seems to be the case in these movies, wanted him to be in the movie. And I think it's also because Jamie Foxx was going to be Daddy Warbucks and Annie, so they thought, yeah. So they wanted to make him like goofy and silly for this. So I guess when he's Daddy Warbucks in the new Annie movie, he'll be a little bit more serious. And also I think with these comic book villains is that for some reason they die off quickly, so you bring in the next batch. But I don't know. I think they were just trying to make him so goofy and silly and so psychotic, so if anything happened to him and he died, nobody would care. Yeah, but here's my question, though. He go boom, or kind of like Dr. Manhattan in Watchmen, is he going to reform or is he gone for good?
My guess is he'll still be alive in some capacity.
Yeah, because that's basically what happened to him. I mean, we saw him like dissolve into the electrical system at Oscorp. I'm assuming he did something along those lines. I don't think for a second you can't introduce the Sinister Six if you keep killing off your potential roster. So for that reason alone, I think he's still alive.
Well, energy can never be created, nor can it be destroyed. So he's not dead.
Yeah, no. Even if he isn't dead, or if he is, what they could do for the Sinister Six is exactly what you guys want. What you said earlier: bring in Shocker. I mean,
I don't want Shocker in my Sinister Six. I want if I'm going to get a Sinister Six in a feature film,
Craven, man.
I want heavy hitters. If it's going to be a big budget film like this, like I know there have been many, many, many iterations of the Sinister Six in the comics, and that's fine. And right now, the quote-unquote Sinister Six, where there's only 5 of them, which is hilarious, Shocker's one of them, and it works. But in the movie, no, I want heavy hitters. I want visually interesting heavy hitters.
All right, let's talk about DNA, shall we? Because Peter, throughout the whole movie, Peter is going on this journey trying to figure out why his father's Merce is so important. And he finds this hidden train tunnel. He finds the video that we see as an audience in the beginning that we don't see all of it because Richard Parker didn't get a chance to finish it at the time. So we see what he had already recorded later. And we have that video message, and he says in there that he coded the spider DNA he used himself as a human petri dish. And that's why it doesn't work for Harry to save Harry.
Like that. That makes sense.
I like that too.
Although, you know what's stupid? Because Harry acts like a retard in this. The fact that Spider-Man could have given his blood to Harry because he has Oscorp scientists at his fingertips, literally 24/7. He could have waited a week until they tested his blood to say, "Oh yeah, shit, this stuff won't work. I'm sorry."
But I have another idiotic question.
Found out he was Peter Parker.
Yeah, but I have another idiotic question about that. Because maybe it was me, but when they started, I think they started saying something about the spiders becoming venomous. Was that supposed to be some sort of hint that if because also I'm going back to the original comics with Peter's blood that he starts to develop his mutation disease. I don't know if they're going to put it in the movie, but my question
Christ,
is,
I hope not.
Yeah, they better not.
yeah. But my question is that if the other spiders are becoming venomous and they were trying to do God knows what with Peter's blood, would that meant that Harry would have turned into Venom?
Oh my God! If they did that, I'm done.
Wait, seriously? Because I thought.
Well, in the Ultimate Comics, Venom is developed as a cure for cancer for Gwen Stacy
by
or Carnage or something.
by Eddie's dad and Peter's dad,
because they're
Yeah.
friends in
Cure
the
for
Ultimate
cancer.
Universe.
Yeah.
Right. Well, see, here's the thing. Which is it, the Ultimate Spider-Man series or is it Spec Spidey? I forget. I think it's the Ultimate Spider-Man cartoon. Yeah, where Harry is Venom.
Yeah,
I think he gets the symbiote for a little bit, but not for long.
Oh no, he keeps coming back. I haven't watched the second season, but he keeps coming back is from what I've seen. But I wouldn't honestly, Harry Osborn as Venom wouldn't really turn me away from Amazing Spider-Man 3 or 4. Honestly, after reading several things with Flash as Venom or Agent Venom. Agent Venom, I should say. I wouldn't mind seeing a movie not necessarily based around that, but that included that.
Yeah, I'd be okay with Agent Venom if it was animated. One thing I'd love to see this universe do, but I don't think it can be done because of the character itself. I don't think you could ever pull off Carnage.
I do.
And that really sucks.
I think you could, and I'll tell you why. Because with Carnage, and I'll turn off with the Broadway musical. What they did is that he was Oscorp's #1 blood guy. That's what they called him. And when Norman became Green Goblin, he kidnapped 6 scientists, put them in this chamber. Out came Swarm, Electro, Swiss Miss, and Carnage and Kraven. Carnage doesn't have to be Cletus Cassidy. He could just be another guy that, unfortunately, I forgot to carry the 6, and now I'm now a mutant freak, and I can just...
That dilutes the character so much, though. It sucks.
It'll suck. It'll be watered down, but you know what? In the 90s cartoon, I was really surprised in the 90s cartoon they brought in Cletus Cassidy. Yeah, they got away with it. I don't mind if they water down the origin to a tad, as long if they could find a way to probably do the kills a little off screen, try to tone it down a little, make Carnage scary, especially what they're doing with real 3D now. I wouldn't mind it too much, if they're changing the game with a lot of the other villains. I think the problem is that Spider-Man is really meant for kids, but, they want to see Venom and they want to see Carnage and they want to see they want to see Kraven, they want to see what they can do. There's got to be an interesting balance that at least, I don't know, maybe have Carnage come from an alternate universe or out of space, something, but I think it could work a little.
There was something they did with the Amazing Spider-Man 2 video game, and I think the idea is sound, and I think this would actually be a really cool idea for a movie, is in the game, there's this guy known as the Carnage Killer. It is Cletus Cassidy. And he's going around killing bad guys. He kills the guy who murdered Uncle Ben. Paints his name on the wall in blood. So what happens is, eventually Kraven the Hunter, who's this huge reality TV show star, comes over and says, I wish to catch the Carnage Killer, for he's the greatest prey. And he teams up with Spider-Man to take this guy down. The whole time, Kraven's learning from Spider-Man to how to hunt him, while at the same time Kraven's teaching Spider-Man, here's how you become a better predator. Now you have to kill. And I think that would be a cool idea for Spider-Man 4, where he has to team up with a villain. Think how cool that could be. And then eventually the symbiote does come out because they're doing experiments at Ravencroft because, you forgot to carry the 6. And Cletus Cassidy does become Carnage, but it's a byproduct of an Oscorp experiment.
Only one problem, though, is that even if they had Spider-Man teaming up with a villain and then trying to kill and Peter Wong. It sounds like Batman Begins, which I'm not saying it's a bad thing, but I could see. I don't know. Maybe
Parallels being drawn.
Yeah, the problem is that, now I'm trying to think of Qui-Gon Jinn because he's already played Ra's al Ghul. Will he play Craven?
No, he can.
He's
no.
some big buff Russian dude.
Yeah, you need. Oh God, Mike, you're gonna kill me. You need Kevin Nash in there. You need Super Shredder.
No one ever needs Kevin Nash.
What about Big Show?
You need Super Shredder.
Big
That's
Show
what
is
you
great.
need. Oh my God, the Big Show.
Oh man, that
is great.
Rusev guy.
Oh my God.
But
Damian Sandow is Craven. Holy crap.
Just like Magneto.
No, that's not bad casting. If you could, although he's now Magneto, which is oh my God.
Oh my
anyway.
God. Yeah, anyway, Amazing Spider-Man 2. It has a lot of really good things. I enjoyed watching the movie. There was nothing that made me want to get up and leave the theater. I think I've said this before on Movie Week in Review here. I've only walked out of 2 movies ever. One of them was a weird Nicole Kidman movie, and the other one was I think it was The Peacemaker. Honestly,
I walked out of Bridesmaids.
2 Nicole Kidman movies I walked out of. Wow. Amazing Spider-Man 2. I loved Electro. I love the visuals around Electro and Spider-Man and doing the battle. Like Ryan said earlier, we finally have actual web shooters because it can be done. Because some high school kids are actually geniuses, Sam Raimi. Come on now. Absolutely love that. I think the first time I ever saw Emma Stone was in the very short-lived 7-episode, actually 5 only aired on television, 7-episode series from Fox called Drive, which is really funny because that also stars Dylan Baker, who played Doc Connors in the original Raimi films. Emma Stone as Gwen Stacy is a hell of a lot better than Opie's daughter. I'm sorry, Bryce Dallas Howard in Spider-Man 3. She was not the Gwen Stacy we deserved at all. She just wasn't. Amazing 2. Absolutely loved it. I thought it was great. What else can I say about it? The music, like I said earlier.
Talk about Felicia Hardy at all?
No.
No. All right, there we go.
Oh man, they so need to recast and get Jennifer Hale. Oh God, if they get Jennifer Hale, I know people will probably say, oh, she's too old right now or whatever else. I don't think she's that old actually, but
Jennifer Hale, Commander Shepard, Jennifer Hale,
because she was the voice of Felicia Hardy, Black Cat, and Spider-Man. Yes.
That's I'm in full support of Commander Shepard. This is my favorite actress on the Citadel.
Felicia Hardy, it was a nice little nod. I don't think they're ever gonna do anything with her. I honestly don't.
They'll put her in some.
She was in
sci-fi
the video
movies.
game because she had cat DNA.
Oh yeah.
Nice.
I hate that game. I keep bringing it up, but I hate it. It's a 6 out of 10. It's worth $10 when it will hit the bargain bin in like a week.
Well, at least she didn't fall out of a building and get eaten by cats like another, comic book movie.
Yeah, fair enough.
Amen to that.
Now, come on now.
I love Batman Returns. Don't get me wrong. I'm just saying that I don't think that Black Cat should be in this movie.
Oh, no, I agree, but getting eaten by cats in Batman Returns is hell of a lot better than what Halle Berry did in Catwoman.
I never saw it.
Good for you. So we've kind of deviated a lot this episode. We've really talked about Amazing 2 a little bit. I honestly like Chris Cooper better as Norman. As much as I like Willem Dafoe as Norman.
What are you basing that off of, though?
It's different roles,
he's in one scene.
Well, he's in
Tex Richmond.
I think fucking what's his name again? Blanchard.
Chris Cooper.
Chris Cooper. I think he gives Norman Osborn a more serious edge to him, whereas Willem Dafoe is serious but fucking crazy.
Yeah.
And despite only having one scene, you get the impression you wouldn't want to fuck with Chris Cooper.
That's why I'm
No.
pissed. I'm pissed because I don't understand why they didn't bring out Chris Cooper as Norman Osborn. I don't know if he's trying to screw with Harry's head like he did in the comics. I'm hoping, because a lot of people are saying that he's not dead. I'm really hoping that Chris Cooper or maybe, I don't know if they'll do this, have him as Hobgoblin.
I don't know. I'm not sure. I don't think that. Has Norman ever been Hobgoblin?
Not that I'm aware of.
No.
I think once there was a rumor because he went insane, or I think it's Harry, because Harry is known to have amnesia in the comics. But I think they just want to try to do some sort of, screw with the audience's mind. But I was really disappointed that Chris Cooper did not put on the Goblin accoutrement in this one.
Let's talk about the bounce, shall we? Because I'm sorry, that was chilling. I didn't think she was going to die in this, but when she bounced back off the ground, oh my god.
I laughed inappropriately for about 2 minutes.
You're such a Canadian asshole.
Kids were crying. Kids,
oh god,
kids were crying in the theater. I remember, and I'll go back to Raimi when Kirsten Dunst was being thrown off the bridge, and I thought, okay, that's where they're going to do the Gwen Stacy moment, and they didn't. In this movie, I mean, parents took their kids because they're like, oh, it's Spider-Man, even though, they're trying to tell their kids about Gwen Stacy before the movie starts. But everybody thinks, okay, it's not going to happen until the next movie. When this happened, there were parents of kids to the left of me and kids to the to the right of me. You get the idea. I had to pick myself up several times because they had to pick up the 4 and 5-year-olds wearing Spider-Man shirts because they could not handle this. It's not like another movie I'll remain nameless where somebody just videotaped the kid crying and put it on YouTube. This really was bone chilling for anyone under 8. I can't blame them. And I think the problem is that, Mike, we talked about death of comic book characters in one of the pullback episodes. And you asked me about any other deaths, and of course I said no real quickly because I knew we were going to talk about Stacy at one point. And I saved it until now. And my argument is, it's always been, did she die from the shock of the fall or the fact that Spider-Man released his webbing too quick and he pulled her up too quick, and that's how she died from him just like trying to go down too quickly to pull her up. It's never really explained. And there was a documentary on the Science Channel about the science of superheroes, about what Peter Parker did incorrectly, that if you hear it from their side, he shot the webbing too quick, he tried to pull up too quick, and that's what snapped her neck. But if you ask another side, it's because as soon as she was thrown, the way that she's going down, it looked like she was going close to like 40, 50. It was really hard to tell on the miles per hour. Yeah, and as I said, I'm no physicist, but I'm assuming the way that she was thrown, she's not going to go straight down. She's going to at least try to, the body's going to move a little bit towards the wall. And I'm assuming it wasn't shown that her head hit or her neck snapped back quickly. So it's hard to tell, but my bottom line is he had good intentions.
Yeah, I would just say the shock of the impact is what killed her. Possibly Peter pulling on the web. That was the other awesome, I was going to say amazing, but the other awesome scene in this is when she calls him Peter and he's in the damn suit and she's like, oh my god, I can't believe I just did that.
Yeah.
I love that. Overall, I really dug the movie. I'm excited to see what they do for the third one. I'm really interested. I think we're going to take a quick break here. We're going to come back with final thoughts and ratings after this.
Tune in next week for a much better episode. For now, though, courage.
All right, so we are back, and we're going to give final thoughts, ratings on Amazing Spider-Man 2, and we're also going to give some predictions for what potentially could happen in Amazing Spider-Man 3. For me, I really enjoyed it. There were a few things that kind of nag at me in retrospect, but as I was watching it in the theater, I really did enjoy it. I do not think it is a perfect film, but I will give it a 4 out of 5 stars, which is really liked it. I love Garfield's Spider-Man. I think he is the superior Spider-Man. That's a movie they need to make. I would love to see that story. Peter dies. Otto takes over. Yay! That would be interesting. Talk about a personality swap. Ryan, what about you for rating?
I'm also going to go with a 4. Really liked it. I'm well aware of the flaws this movie has. We've talked about them at length. However, my enjoyment of seeing Spider-Man be Spider-Man, really for the first time, in my opinion, up on the big screen, far, in my opinion, outweighs the flaws. So it's not perfect. There are a lot of things wrong with it, but I really had a blast watching it. So,
Jeremy?
Okay, you're either DC, Marvel, Coke, Pepsi, PC, Macintosh, I get it.
Oh, God.
But here's the thing, though. I don't dislike the Marvel Universe. I just try my best to understand it. With the Spider-Man Rogue, I can dig the villains, but I just feel you shouldn't throw a villain for the sake of throwing in a villain. And the other problem is, if you're going to make this where you're going to build up the potential Sinister Six, this wasn't the way to do it. Either you should have worked out a way to make it into the cartoon or the comics and try to do a hybrid and give me a tighter story. The problem is it's got to be about balance. The way with the Dark Knight, like 10 minutes for Joker, 10 minutes for Batman, 10 minutes for Lucius Fox. If they would have done that a little bit more, and I also feel, who is Spider-Man for? Is it for kids? Is it for adults, kidults? You know, I feel that at one point it's going to be mandated that anyone between 6 or 8 should have a Spider-Man party, and that's great. I think he's a friendly neighborhood hero. I think he works well when he's trying to even talk with the villains and have like a Groucho Marx personality. I like how he's bonding with the public. I like the bright colors on a suit. He's a charming, personable guy. And Peter Parker, if you're socially awkward, how can you hate or not relate to Peter Parker? But the problem with these movies or even TV shows, you build up likable characters, the actors make the characters work even more, and then they're taken away. And it was a tough one, but this one fell apart quickly, and when it got better, it just was too long, and I don't know why they're making these movies so bloody long. So I have to go with 1.5, but I really
wow.
I really want to see if they can find a way to, instead of going backwards, I don't want amazing, I don't want ultimate, I don't know if I want superior, I want spectacular. And the DVD Blu-ray set helped me with that, but I would like to see what they're going to do to rebuild this knocked over sandcastle.
Wow, and just for everybody, I will put the GCRN rating system link in the post so people can see what the ratings are. But just to let everybody know, Jeremy's 1.5 is, on our scale, is titled terrible. The positives are few and far between. It has abundance of failures, including 1 or 2 specific areas that are overpowering disasters. The areas of success are minute in their effectiveness when compared to the product as a whole. So, Mike, what are you going to rate Amazing Spider-Man 2?
I'm going to have to go with a 2 out of 5. Mainly because once I started to recognize all the flaws in it, I couldn't shake them. And it's not to say I didn't have fun with this at times. There are some brilliant Spider-Man moments in this. It's the closest we'll get to a live-action version of the 90s cartoon in some ways. But just scripting, pacing, and just rewrites really fucking ruined this for me. But I would say to people, see it once for sure, but don't go out of your way. Wait for Netflix, Redbox. If you want to see it in theaters, it'll look cool, but you're not really getting that much anyway. So 2 out of 5, that's what I'd say.
Wow. That's kind of strange that 2 of us really, basically have good ratings and thoughts, and the other 2, not so much. All right, so going around the table, starting with Ryan, what do you want? Not what you've seen, not what they've announced, not whatever minor plot details they've given for Amazing 3, what do you want to see in the third film, if it happens, or when it happens?
Well, I guess to me, what was kind of missing from the end of this, and I didn't remember to talk about it when we talked about the death of Gwen Stacy, is what's just as important as the death of Gwen Stacy is the next issue after that, where it almost sends Peter over the edge, and he almost kills Norman Osborn. Now, Norman ends up dying in that issue anyway, but I would kind of like to see it, and that I think they might have missed their chance to have it push Peter over the edge because it's been half a year, maybe even a year by the time we get around to that. So I guess the more I talk about that, the more I've talked myself out of the fact that that's obviously not going to happen. So to be honest, I don't know and I don't care. I don't want to have expectations. I don't want to think about what they're going to do, because if this movie's proved anything, it's that I don't know what the hell they're going to do. And I'm just going to sit back, relax, and try to enjoy what comes next.
What about you, Jeremy?
I want at least. I want the Green Goblin to come back. I want Peter to try to be a stronger person and realize that he can't save everybody, but he still has to understand the difference between good and with great power there comes great responsibility. And I want him to realize that he's not going to save every single person, and it's not just about ego. And I want to see at least Goblin, Vulture, or Electro, and I'd like to see Kraven, and I'd like to see Norman in some aspect, and maybe a hint of Venom, and I'd like to see Peter not worried about a love interest, but just figuring out what he's now going to do with these powers, and for him to find somebody that he can at least have as an eyes and ears, and somebody, because every time they do this, that you feel he has a strong figure, male or female, they go away. And I think they're going to have to invent somebody new or rebuild somebody and just have Peter go and or even bring in Kingpin. That would be interesting if they brought Kingpin into this.
I think he belongs to Marvel Studios.
Yeah.
Now that Daredevil's back
right,
with them,
yeah,
yes,
he was part of that deal. So.
Yeah, but the thing is, there's no one in Hollywood right now that could play Kingpin. No one.
I don't know about that.
I was going to say, I think you're going to hear a casting announcement before too much longer about the Daredevil Netflix series, and he'll probably be in it. So,
right, but I'm saying, like, the Kingpin as we know him, the big brute that we know him as, or the big oversized businessman who, we underestimate the strength that he actually has. There's no one in Hollywood right now that could play that. At least that's my personal opinion. All right, Mike, what do you want to see from the next film?
In the next film, I'd like to see Spider-Man have a villain that's truly a threat. And what I mean is, I want something a little more psychological. I'd like to see someone be able to shake him up to his core. Like a Kraven. I think that could be really friggin' cool if you played it right. And it's not, but at the same time, I don't want to Nolan-verse this.
Oh, no.
Because the Spider-Man movies are different in that regard. They are meant for kids in some ways. So, Kraven, ultimately, I'd like to see a Venom done right, but I don't know if I'm ever going to see that. So, if I had to pick something, I'd like to see more A Day in the Life of Spider-Man. I'd love to see him fight the Shocker. That would be really cool. Or something like that. I'm not saying I wanted to see him fight Paste Pot Pete or something, but it would be kind of fun to see him do something and have a villain that has a bigger plan other than twirly mustache. So, give me something that don't suck. That'll be my general broad statement. My wife is mooning me right now. Thank you for that, sweetheart.
For me, the more and more I think about it, I really... And this is specifically after, I think it was... Is it Amazing 606?
616.
No, Amazing 60... No, it's 606 that has the black cat, right?
Yeah.
Yeah. Amazing 606. I want the Spider-Man Black Cat team up now that Gwen's gone. She is gone. Now that Gwen's gone, I don't want Mary Jane right away. after reading Amazing 606, I was like, oh my god, this is so awesome. Just the way that their relationship was done in that book is just simply amazing. I would love to see that. As far as villains, I'm open for anything as far as the villains go. I hope they do bring back Chris Cooper. I hope Norman is alive. The other thing that I definitely need to see, I need to see how Garfield and J.K. play off as Peter and Jonah and Spidey and Jonah. Because I will say that is one thing I still think that Toby got right, is how, when he web shot Jonah's mouth. Quiet, Mom and Dad need to talk. I love that line.
You know what this movie needs? Deadpool.
Oh god, just no! Oh god, I wish people would stop bringing him into everything.
I just like that episode of Ultimate Spider-Man where he's like, "I'm a bad guy. I was totally gonna screw you from the beginning. You're just stupid." That would be hilarious.
Or Madam Web. Madam Web would be interesting if they brought her into this.
That would be kind of cool if they did it right.
You know what would be really cool with her? I don't think this will ever happen because I think she's way too old. But if they got June, if they got... Stan makes all these cameos. If they got his wife, because his wife voiced Madam Web in the old cartoon series.
Really?
Yeah, that was her. That was June Lee. Sick. That would be awesome if she was Madam Web and yeah, that would be awesome.
I'm in full support of this.
Yes. Stan's cameo in this. Hey, I think I know that kid. That was kind of awesome.
I wonder if it was the same character. It must have been.
Yeah, yes, I think it would have to have been, yeah. Which I think his cameo in Amazing Spider-Man still might be my favorite Stan cameo.
What? I forget what
he's the librarian in the fight scene.
Yeah, that's right. That's right, in the school. That's right. I think my favorite Stan cameo overall is, I have two really that I like. When he died in Incredible Hulk from the Hulk juice, and Superheroes in New York, get out of here. From Avengers, that was awesome.
I like Fantastic Four. His character, Mr. Reed, here's your mail.
Yeah, that was
yep.
I liked his cameo on Agents of S.H.I.E.L.D. because he was a pimp.
So you mean to tell me he played Hugh Hefner twice?
More or less, yeah. He's like, look at these ladies.
Oh God. All right. Mike, where can the people find you and all the stuff that you do?
Well, you can now find me at thisweekingeek.net, my new website I'm working with, nerdvice.com, and soon to be more radio and television appearances, just waiting to get them confirmed. I'm going to be on a game show sometime soon. So look for that in the fall.
Awesome. Ryan, what do you got going on over there at Positively Nerdy?
Oh, all sorts of positively nerdy things. Yeah, that's the name of the website. That's the name of the podcast. My next episode, I don't know when this is going up as we record, though.
It's going up as soon as we stop.
Awesome. Well, then my next episode will be my 200th, and it will be all about my trip to Motor City Comic Con. So That's what's going on right now.
What about you, Jeremy? What's going on with you?
Well, with Hunnick Outcast podcast for this month, it's nothing but Kaiju, Bless You, You're Welcome episodes, where last night Dane, Lamont, and myself, and his friend Wyatt Jones, we were talking about Gogeta 54 and bashing Godzilla 98, Back to the Stone Age. I'll be talking about the rules of Earth comics, and of course, tomorrow I'm going to be seeing Godzilla 14, and by the end of the month I'll be reviewing that. And also starting in June, I have another podcast because Hunnick Outcast podcast is the grab bag pop culture. I'll be doing a Batman on the Harley Quinn comic series because I actually have got into that. And also I'll be doing my top 37 Batman villains. And yes, King Tut has made that list.
I don't know what's worse, that or the fact that Egghead is both in DC and Marvel. All right, so
an excellent villain.
Leave it to the Canadian bacon dude to make an egg pun.
Bacon, so good.
Bacon is evil, damn it. All right, coming up on MWire, we are only going to be doing one more new movie on the regular episodes. That'll be X-Men Days of Futures Past at the end of May, beginning of June. Coming up next, I'm going to be starting a 3-part arc that is going to be celebrating 80 years of a film franchise. That would be Dashiell Hammett's The Thin Man movies.
Ooh.
So, yeah. That's gonna be, I love those movies.
I was gonna say RoboCop.
No, hell no, RoboCop is not 80 years old.
It should be.
No. Shut up with your... Are you eating bacon, you idiot?
I will not confirm or deny.
Alright, so like I said, coming up next time, we're going to do The Thin Man, and after The Thin Man, these 3-part arcs with Thin Man are going to be all double feature episodes. I don't know who's going to be joining me on that. I wanted Movie Revolt Dan, but he has yet to reply to me on that one. So, until next time, keep those film reels rolling, and we will see you at the movies.
Just listen to Movie Week in Review on GeekCastRadio.com. If you would like to leave feedback on the show, there are many ways to do so. First, you can visit the website, GeekCastRadio.com, where you can comment on the episode and all of our different podcasts. Be sure to rate our show on iTunes and leave us feedback. You can follow us on Twitter at GCRNMwire. Become a fan of us on Facebook by searching Geekcast Radio Network. You can email us at feedback@geekcastradio.com. Call the voicemail line 502-526-5821. Please remember to tell us the show you're leaving the message for and your name. So until next time, unleash the geek in you.
In a world, there, I said it, happy,